Look around the globe in the year 2600 BCE, and you expect to find early empires doing what early empires usually did, raising armies, fighting brutal wars, and conquering their neighbors. But in South Asia, millions of people were living in perfectly orderly blocks and peaceful streets. This was the Harappan Civilization, also known as the Indus or Indus-Sarasvati Civilization. It is the earliest in India and one of the oldest in the world. While contemporary elsewhere were still figuring out basic civic structures, the Harappans had already implemented comprehensive urban planning. They utilized a writing system, managed complex agricultural outputs, and supported specialized occupations. They maintained this strict civic discipline across massive urban centers, with zero historical evidence of warfare, no weapons of conquest, no battle monuments, and then, at the height of their success, they simply abandoned their cities. History usually records the success of an ancient society through the scale of its military or the lands it seized. The Harappans present a different model of advancement, one where the highest priority was the organization of the community itself. To understand how they maintained this harmony, you have to look at the ground they stood on. This is a view of Harappa today. Their major settlements were heavily fortified by strong walls and deliberately split into an upper town for public buildings and a lower town for residential blocks. Down in those residential areas, the town planning was incredibly precise. They designed wide, straight roads that intersected at perfect right angles, carving the city into geometric grids. The houses lining these streets weren't built haphazardly. They were constructed using baked bricks that were standardized in size and proportion across different cities. This precision extended beneath the floorboards. The Harappans engineered a system of water management that was centuries ahead of its time. Look at this underground drainage line. Almost every private house had its own bathroom, and the wastewater fed directly into a sophisticated, enclosed sewage system running beneath the city streets, complete with inspection holes for maintenance. Beyond private plumbing, they engineered massive public water infrastructure. They carved out deep municipal wells, built vast reservoirs in cities like Dholabira, and constructed this, the Great Bath in Mohenjo-Daro, a large waterproofed public pool. When an ancient society directs its labor toward underground sewers and public baths instead of palaces for absolute rulers, it reveals a clear focus. They invested their resources into public health and communal cleanliness. Feeding tens of thousands of urbanites required a reliable agricultural engine. Harappan farmers produced a diverse yield, cultivating wheat, barley, millets, rice, and pulses, alongside a steady supply of meat, fish, and dairy. Because their farming was efficient, they generated surpluses. That extra food acted as a currency, allowing them to establish an active trade network, both within their own borders and far outside of India. We know they were operating an international maritime economy because we can still see the infrastructure. This long rectangular structure in Lothal is a massive tidal dockyard, built specifically to load and unload merchant ships. And those ships were carrying high-value exports. Harappan artisans manufactured highly sought-after goods, including carved ivory items, shell bangles, copper tools, and meticulously crafted beads. Moving that volume of goods requires rigorous record-keeping. They managed their commercial activity using standardized stone weights and square seals, which carry the still undeciphered Indus script. This economic stability afforded them the time for art and daily comforts. Their artifacts, like carefully fired pottery, children's toys, game pieces, and this intricately carved priest-king sculpture, show a people heavily invested in decoration and leisure. The archaeological record from these cities reveals a society that directed its wealth into international trade and artistic production. Despite their sophisticated engineering, excavators find no traces of the massive barracks or specialized weaponry common in other Bronze Age powers. Yet, around 1900 BCE, the shipping docks quieted down, the granaries emptied. The residents of these planned cities packed up and left. The archaeological record from this period shows no burned layers in the soil and no weapons scattered in the streets. There is no evidence of an invading army breaching those thick fortification walls. The real threat came from the sky. Over centuries, a massive shift in regional weather patterns caused rainfall to drop. The water supply they relied on was slowly cut off. This lack of rain severely impacted the local river systems. Most critically, It caused the mighty Sarasvati River, a major lifeline for many Harappan settlements, to dry up. Without consistent water, their agriculture failed. Unable to feed the densely packed urban centers, the Harappans were forced to abandon their grids, dispersing back into smaller, decentralized farming villages. The Harappan legacy challenges the idea that conquest is the only path to advancement. Their cities show that a community can be defined by how it sustains and organizes its citizens, rather than the borders it pushes. But their disappearance also leaves us with a stark reality. No matter how perfectly a society engineers its cities, it remains vulnerable to the changing climate of the planet it is built on.